Well, why is discrimination an important issue for me personally? Well, I personally haven't experienced a great deal of racial discrimination against me, but I've been professionally working on the issues for probably 20 or more years, in particular since beginning to work here in the High Commissioner for Human Rights Office, working on the issues of Indigenous peoples. And of course, Indigenous peoples, about 380 or 400 million of them, living in many countries of the world, face very serious problems of discrimination. So my personal experience has been really meeting and hearing the stories of these peoples who have been participating on our meetings. Now, as far as achievements recently, I think on this particular issue we can really point to some significant changes. First of all, the issue has become visible. Many years ago when I began, nobody knew about the issues of Indigenous peoples. There were virtually no mechanisms in the United Nations to receive Indigenous peoples. So it's only very recent that we began to hear their voices, and we have now a number of mechanisms where they can participate actively. But I suppose the real great achievement, I think, took place in September 2007, a couple of years ago, when the General Assembly finally adopted the Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous Peoples. You see a copy up behind me. What's interesting about this document is that it's very far-reaching in its term, in its language, in terms of its contents and so on, and it gives a different perspective about many things. Just to give one example, what is development? And for many Indigenous peoples, development is when they control their own development, when they can have their consent sought. And they're looking not necessarily for economic growth, but looking for living in a more harmonious way in their communities, and in a way which is perhaps more in terms of solidarity amongst the group, maintenance of the environment, maintenance of the resource base, and so on and so forth. So the concepts in the Declaration are very interesting for us as we look to the future and we think of a planet with reduced resources, and here are peoples who actually have a plan, and it's contained very much in this declaration that has just been adopted.